It all started back in 2018 when a revolution swept across the country. People had endured decades under President Omar Bashir's brutal military regime and were determined to usher in a new era of democracy. Fast forward 4 years and Sudan is torn apart by a war between the men who helped overthrow Bashir. How did this happen? Welcome back to Primetime TV. Today, we're diving into the complex story of Sudan's conflict. Revolution and betrayal. Picture this: December 19, 2018. The spark of revolution ignites in Sudan as civilians rise against Bashir's oppressive regime. They yearned for democracy and a better future for their country. Eventually, two men emerged as key figures in the movement, instrumental in taking down Bashir in a coup. But little did anyone know that these two partners would later become bitter enemies, tearing Sudan apart and causing the deaths of countless civilians. A history of coups. Sudan has a long history of military coups. Leaders have been toppled time and time again by military officers. The Sudanese Armed Forces, also known as SAF, have held tremendous power for nearly a century. This pattern of coups traces back to Sudan's independence from Anglo-Egyptian rule, with the first successful military coup occurring in 1958. This legacy of military takeovers laid the foundation for Bashir's rise to power. Omar al-Bashir Bashir's coup-proofing strategy. Aware of previous leaders' fate, Bashir devised a strategy to protect his rule. It was called coup-proofing. He surrounded himself with loyal protectors, carefully balancing their power to prevent one from overthrowing him. His primary ally was the Sudanese Armed Forces, with whom he maintained a strong relationship. Bashir relied on them heavily to suppress a civil war in southern Sudan, where the SAF and allied militias carried out brutal acts on his command. The Darfur tragedy. During the same time, another crisis was unfolding in Darfur. Neglected and marginalized for years, the people of Darfur felt the weight of a humanitarian crisis. Rebel groups attacked Sudanese troops in the region, leading Bashir to rely on local Arab militias known as the Janjaweed, infamous for their brutality. Bashir orchestrated the destruction of over 3,000 villages, causing mass killings, abuse, and displacement of civilians. During this time, Bashir found a key protector in Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, better known as Hamedi, the leader of the Janjaweed militias. Fall of Bashir and the power-sharing agreement. 2011 South Sudan gained independence, weakening Bashir's hold on power. Sudan's economy suffered a blow, as many of its oil resources were now beyond Bashir's control. To solidify his position, Bashir elevated Hamedi and the Janjaweed to the status of a paramilitary force called the Rapid Support Forces, RSF. However, the people of Sudan faced economic hardships, leading to protests in 2018. Bashir's protection scheme was tested, and the revolution began. The RSF, SAF, and other security sectors supported Bashir and cracked down on the pro-democracy protesters. But the people persisted, and eventually, Bashir was removed from power in April 2019 through a surprise move orchestrated by SAF commanders and Hamedi. The celebrations were short-lived as the two men, who were seen as complicit in the violence in Darfur, turned their aggression towards the protesters who had fought for change. Failed power sharing and current conflict. International pressure led to a power-sharing agreement between the military and protesters, aiming for a civilian-led transitional government. However, Burhan and Hamedi, the two military leaders, assumed critical roles in the Transitional Council, sparking concerns among the protesters. The board initially aligned with the agreement but faced repeated military interventions. Ultimately, the transitional government collapsed and the conflict escalated between Burhan and Hamedi. Lives shattered and hope betrayed. As the war rages on, lives hang in the balance. Hundreds of armed men roam the country, with casualties piling up. Ceasefires have been broken, and peace talks have yielded little progress. The bitter feud between these two military leaders overshadowed the revolution that once brimmed with hope. Protesters feel betrayed by their de facto leaders and the international community that pledged support for their democratic aspirations. Sudan's journey from revolution to betrayal is a tragic tale of power struggles, broken promises, and shattered dreams. The road to democracy remains uncertain, with civilians caught in the crossfire of a conflict that shows no signs of abating. Let's hope that one day Sudan can heal its wounds and rebuild a future that its people truly deserve. We hope this video sheds some light on the historical context the rise and fall of President Omar Bashir, and the subsequent power struggle between key figures Hemedti and Burhan. If you found this video informative, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any future updates. Do share your thoughts in the comment section below.